Howdy, everybody. Welcome to the plug. It is myself, Felicia Williams, and my co host, Diane Wooford. And so we are welcoming you today to our podcast. Some of you may be new, some of you who are family, we consider you family. We are excited that you are here with us today on the plug. We here empower you, educate, inspire for you to connect with first God, then yourself, so that you can connect with others. It's all about relationships. So we here again on a Sunday. Happy, Father's Day, because though we celebrated it last Sunday, I believe you should be celebrated, brothers, as often as possible. And with that being said, we segue into, we are talking about men. Actually, this month of June, we've been hosting on our podcast special brothers who have come in and shared some light with us, how they feel, what they see, and how they want to be. And we also have got the opportunity to share in some of their podcasts. So we want you to join our family of community to let's have a conversation heart to heart. And that leads me to our topic today. Real men lie down. They don't stand up. And I know that's a play on words for some of you, but it is not for me as the facilitator, Felicia. We're going to talk about this. We're going to dig deep, but we can't do that without brothers, because we can't talk about men without men actually on the podcast to share their hearts. And here on the plug, we are dear to our brothers, because we know we need our brothers and our brothers need us. But let us have a conversation. With all I get, and let's get an understanding. So again, today we're going to talk from this topic that real men lay down. They don't stand up. That's taken from the foundation of John 10 and 18, where Jesus simply says, look, you're not taking my life. I'm laying it down for you. And he had the authority to say it. And then he had the authority to actually pick his life up, so to speak. He didn't just lay there. He had to go through something. Then he was empowered to do a new thing. So that's the premise of what we're going to be talking about today. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce some brothers who are part of the BMU family, and they're going to join us, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves and whatever they want to say to actually add to you joining them on their podcast, because we're all in this together. But nonetheless, now make sure you hit the like and the share button. Nonetheless, now if you got 5 on it, go on and hit the donate and donate your coins. Why? Let me tell you why. Because these funds are going to children, families who are in need. The plug, power living under God. It's not just about us, it's about all of us. Welcome, brothers. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
You on mute, Pain.
There you go. I gotta make sure I don't hit my mic. I can mute myself without knowing it. Anyway, I'm Richard Payne. I've been married 38 years. And you mentioned something last time I was on. My wife's name is Cheryl with a C. Okay, you know. Well, anyway, so I mean, I'm retired. I worked as an engineer for the Department of Defense for 38 years. You know, so now I'm just hanging out on YouTube, making me reflect over my life. It's funny today. My daughters are here, so I cook dinner every so often. So I cooked some dinner. I had some lamb stew. It's pretty good, if I should say so myself, right? It's really good. So they're here. They're hanging out. They're doing each other's hair, you know. And so I'm proud of them. So, I mean, I'm just a regular dude. So I'm flattered that y'all asked me to come up here. So let me just see if I can represent for the men today, or just put us back into the abyss. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if we're going to go forward or backwards based on my answer. But thanks for having me up here.
Certainly. Thank you, Brother Payne. And hello, Miss Cheryl. We want to shout out the missus.
Yes.
How you doing, ladies? This is Lost in Translation podcast, also known as Jared. Listen, I'm 51 years single, undefeated. You know what I'm saying? I hadn't been wrangled in yet, so it's been hard, but I understand the mission that's at hand, so I know what I have to do. So it's not gonna be easy. You know what I'm saying? Because it ain't gonna be easy, especially not where I'm going. So I've been in management for almost 20 years, so I'm used to managing. I'm used to leading. I'm used to leadership. So it's one of those things. It's in my blood. You know, it's one thing to lead people who are underneath you. It's another thing to lead people that's above you and below you and on the side of you too. So that's sometimes that can be difficult, but it can be done. So that's the main reason why I'm here. Is the everyday man. You know what I mean? Sometimes we get put in positions that we're not prepared for, but we still have to do what we have to do. You know, we have to learn how to get along with people. So that's where I'm from.
All right, welcome. We have a variety. We have some brothers who are in the chat. Make sure you continue to actually engage with us. So you see that we have a single brother, we have a single undefeated. Let me make sure that I say that right. And we have a married brother who I love. Nonetheless, who shouts his wife out. He gave me her name this week when he talked about her when he was on the show before. I think that's important. I will say that because it says a lot about his value of the woman he has. So I want to bring that out. And we also have Diane, who is married. I stand as being married, defeated, single, undefeated, on my way to do it again in Jesus' name.
Amen.
You want to do with that, take that all with you. So now, let's go into our topic. Fellas, what do y'all think about the topic when you know, real men lay down? They don't stand up. What do you think about the topic as it relates to just the topic itself and what's portrayed on brothers culturally, holistically?
You know, when I think about it, I think about the Bible verse, great is he that lays down his life for a friend. It's one of those situations that a lot of people don't necessarily do that. You know what I mean? It's get it how you live it. You know what I'm saying? It's I'm gonna get mine before you get yours type of mentality. In a world where people are selfish, it is very extremely hard to find somebody who would actually give up their position for you, or you give up your position for them. So that's the thing what I thought about when I first heard about it.
Okay.
Well, I got to be honest. I said, well, I know this is a play on words to me because I have one foot squarely in the secular world, and the other one, you know, I touch the other. I check the non-secular world just to see if any lightning is going to come down every so often, and so it hit me. But you know, my wife is really into the church. I mean, we're both Baptists. You know, I got my Bible here. I just bought a new one too, so the old one is really beat up. But, you know, we talk about things. Well, I didn't really know what you meant by that. And the only thing that just came to my mind, because I knew it was some kind of play on the words. But when I look at it, and the stand-up part is another thing. But lay down, you know, one of the things I thought about was, you know, when I got married, I just thought I laid it all on the, you know, just all on the altar with my wife and my family. Right. You know, for my kids, I tell them when we talk, I said, you know, my job was to lay the tracks down for you to run on. You know, my wife, I said, well, you know, this is a house for you to, you know, make into a home. I lay the tracks, I create the environment for you to thrive. You know, so it kind of was like that when I was at work too. I was like mentoring all the young engineers and things of that nature, whether I was their manager or not. A lot of people used to come to me, black, white, all of them, women, men. But the women always kept the door open, by the way. So keep that door open, god dang it. Do not close it. You know, so, but I mean, those are the kind of things that, I mean, so I can look at it that way. So I'm waiting for you guys to give me the full depth of what we're
Okay,
talking.
because and thank you both, because this month has been men's mental health. I've heard so many different podcasts. I've heard the heart of men. I've heard men saying, and we kind of had this conversation. Men are not heard, or men are going out working and have emotions and not a place to find that's trustworthy to be vulnerable. Men who no one is asking, how are you? When you go to work and you're working hard every day, you providing, what we know is meant to be a provider, protector, but it's like a stand-up kind of guy. He's doing all the things, but internally he's wasting away, so to speak. And so as I was going into prayer and thinking about all the things I'd heard and listening to the Harder brothers and just listening to, as we've been talking on these podcasts, and I was asking the Lord. And when I asked the Lord, these your sons, these your boys, just like we cry out, because God has no respect of person gender wise. And I think sometimes what I started thinking about was, we'll keep talking and we'll embellish, if you will, like we'll never get to a solution. What's the answer? And so as I was in prayer, what came to me was John 10:18, where Jesus, who's the example, laid down his life. Now, of course, we want brothers to stand. You take a stand every day, you walk out the door. But I think the submission, let's talk about submitting. Most of the time when you talk about the word submitting, we tend to think about women, but there is a level of submission for men as it relates to their vulnerability. Because I walked away, gentlemen, I almost walked away like, okay, so there's no answer. There's no help for brothers. Brothers got to just keep going. They're not saying just keep going. We talk about it. Just keep going. A woman hurts the brother. Just keep going. She hurt him. You can't be trusted. Just stay in it till you win it. I don't know when winning it is. So this is what this has kind of was birth. So submission. What that?
Oh, I was going to tie that into your word submission to the fellas with what you were saying, that my question would be, do you submit to God first?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes, that's the answer. If you're asking for an answer, yeah.
Okay.
Now, even me not being like overly religious, so to speak, I think everything I got is a blessing from God. Everything, everywhere. I just think about mine. I'm gonna be real quick. I'm 67. I'll be 67, and I'm saying for me to get to where I'm at, it's no accident, and it's not only because I was leaning on my own understanding, right? I had to make some pretty daggone good decisions when I look back on it, as opposed to bad ones, because so that fork in the road is there for every decision you make. And so for me to be, I'm not like sitting on top of the world, but for me to have the family where I'm at now, just relatively still no chalk around my body in the morning, I was in Harlem, the Bronx, all kinds of stuff. And so I think I always give honor to God for where I'm at, to meet my wife, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
Having my kids, there's a whole big story in that one, so everything.
Good.
Having our kids, if I should say.
Right. And I guess I was just trying to, sometimes some people have are the order.
God first, yeah.
Yeah. So that was why I asked it that way. Lit.
My saying, obedience is better than sacrifice.
Right.
A lot of times people think if you follow God, your path is always going to be easy. I'm here to tell you it's not. Sometimes you got to be obedient when stuff look bad. Sometimes you got to be obedient when it look like the wheel's about to fall off. Sometimes you got to be obedient when you ain't got nothing left to give. It's easy to be obedient when the sun is shining. There's no rain. There's sunshine. You're surrounded by people that love you. But can you be obedient in the darkness? Can you be obedient when you're alone? Can you be obedient when you're afraid? That is when obedience pays. Because even the Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things will be added unto you. So my thing is, can you be obedient when God needs you to be? You know? And I think that's one of those things that takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. It happens, you know, a perfection of time that takes place. And sometimes I don't think people are patient enough to let that sink in, to build up those calluses. You know what I mean? When tough times come, that's what makes you tough. That's what makes you obedient, because if all you have to do is look back on your life and see what God has carried you, and you knew you didn't carry yourself, and you said, I will leave you, never forsake you. You know what I mean? So obedience is one of those things, man, that has to be worked on, instead of just, you know, just believing when it's convenient. You know, that's how I look at it.
So when you tie that, both of those shares that both of y'all shared, and I appreciate you sharing your personal journeys and what. But when we look at relationships and all that we, you know, kind of been talking about, when you think about a relationship between men and women, husband, wife, or I don't know what they call in a romantic relationship when they're not married yet, but when there's conflict, and we talk about all the things we've been talking about with brothers, my question is, so what does that look like for a brother who's a spiritual brother, believes in God, like brother, they call you R Payne. You don't mind me saying brother Payne. I can just say R
No,
Payne.
that's fine. It's fine.
I want to be respectful because I'm going, okay.
Okay, I'm easy. I'm easy.
Okay. But so when we talk about, you know, spiritual men and men who are godly, but when we live and we walk in this world, this practical walk, I think sometimes we separate them instead of combining them. Because if I'm a godly man, or you know, whether I'm married or single, and vice versa with women, I need to take who I am, my connection with God, into this relationship when it get hard, like you just said, Lit. When it get hard, when there's infidelity, when there's unforgiveness, how does that look? Because decisions have to be made as life continues to happen. So we have a man who's been married, who's a godly man, been married for years. We have a man who's single, undefeated, but is on your way somewhere, and you even say, because you know what has to happen. And you also talk about, you know what you're looking for. But the other flip side of that is you talk about how sisters basically saying anybody just can't step because you got what? Boundaries. So I think I want to ask this question. So for godly men who find themselves in conflict in relationship, what does it look like to submit when your spouse has stepped out, or when you and your spouse, and that don't mean it had to happen to anybody on the panel, but these are real life situations, because people stay stuck for various reasons. Yeah, I got a lot. I'm trying to stop.
Okay.
Are you finished with the question, or you got some more?
I finished. I don't know. Yeah, let me slow down because the question is,
I don't know. I mean, listen, since I'm married, listen, I'll be honest with you. You know, as far as I'm concerned, my list for the things I would expect from my wife in terms of boundaries, in terms of things we can't come back from, I got to be honest. Infidelity is one thing we can never come back from. And I think that's a man thing. I think that's more of a man thing. Women are a little bit more lenient, not as much these days as they used to be. Mm-hmm. But for a man, and one of the reasons why that is not only because my absolutely vivid imagination will never turn off. if my wife ever stepped out, is because all the things that I've been willing to do for our marriage to keep those vows together. That it's the ultimate betrayal because that's one that doesn't. I mean, respect is at the top of the list, right? And infidelity is one of those things that no matter how you couch it, you can never get that respect back. And even if I forgave, I would never forgive. We would never have the same kind of life again. You know, it would be. It was one of those kind of things. I mean, I talked to my wife about that kind of stuff. Because I never worry about it. Let me tell you, we've been together. I never check the phone. I don't have locations on. I don't ask her where she's going and all that. We just got this ultimate trust, and vice versa. We got each other's passwords to our phone. I don't need the password. I mean, I pay the bill. I can look at all the charges and never check any of that stuff. So, you know, so I got ultimate trust there. If that's broken, when we talk about those things, we never really get deep. I just said, listen, if you ever step down on me, just take it to your grave. Just don't ever get this like pang of like, you know, you feel like getting off your chest and you want to let me know that you. I said, no. Just take that whatever. You just take it to your grave. Or if you go before me and I come see you and you're going, he said, listen, I want to say this before I meet my maker. No. Don't tell, because I don't want to remember you that way. Just go. But I don't, you know, we laugh about that, you know. So, but you know, we laugh about that. So I don't know. I mean, that's it. But that's the only one thing. So, but I know that's not the only thing you're talking about. But everything else, we conversate. We talk. You know, if I have something with my wife, and just bringing it back down from that extreme, if she does something I don't like, I talk to her and I tell her, if I ever do stuff you don't like, don't keep it in. Talk to me about it, right? You might not like my answer, but you got to give me the chance to put it on the table, right? Just like I do with her. And we don't have a lot of those big. I mean, we're in the jet stream of our relationship now, and we just look at each other, just it's you again, it's you again.
But I want to say, you said it's extreme, but it's really not. It's really common.
It's common.
And that's really an indicator of a real man lays down. Even when you talk about communication, if your wife does something that you don't like, you're going to communicate that to her. See, that's laying down. You see,
okay,
you're laying it down so that you're the man of your house will pick it up. You pick it up means you have the authority and the responsibility to make it right. That's the fixing. We talk about men, fix this, fix that, fix the garage, fix the car. No, fix what is internal broken or has the opportunity to be more broken than it is, just like in a misunderstanding. So what you do when you say, Cheryl, when you did this, I felt whatever, then that's laying it down to go to your wife and have a conversation. And you picking up, because if you didn't do that and you just let it fester,
it's bad.
It's bad. And then you have a whole explosion, but you're the head of the house. And you could have prevented it.
Yes. A lot of men have a problem in that area.
So that's what I'm saying with the laying down, because you know what you do? You are humbling yourself. You're not standing up in pride. Because how would she know unless you share that with her? Because though you've been married that long, can you literally say, now I know you might be completing each other's sentences, because when you're around somebody, you do that with friends, but can you literally say you can read Cheryl's mind?
No.
Absolutely not. You can't. You can be married to her 50 years and you still can't read her mind. This is why communication will be key. So yes, all of what you said was very prevalent to what the conversation is about. So Lit, did you want to say something? Before you say something though, Lit, BMU, this is important. Y'all can speak to this. So he says, when a man gets stepped out on, he will never recover. His ego, I think, our Payne just talked about that, betrayal. Even when he leaves her, he will still suffer. But when she steps out, God gives you the way. Okay, this is what I was talking about. When a woman steps out, God gives you authority to walk away. Here's my question. Well, why so many don't?
You want to go there? I think it's finances. I think because men, it's a double whammy. I think especially if you're just a regular guy, maybe you don't have the, it depends on how old you are, how much you have invested. You lose your kids, you lose your house, and you still paying, and the dude's over there in your house. So guys, that's why I think, I don't know for sure, but I think part of it, men have to do an economic calculus when they leave, because the court system beats them up. Now, not all the time, but I think that's part of it. Maybe there's some weak guys who can, like, there's some men who actually forgive. They say they forgive, but I think they're lying. I don't believe them. I don't see how they can do it. All right. But you move on. I mean, the hurt is, you can move on. But I think when somebody does something once, that means it's easier to do it again. I think it's easier to do it again. And you never really, I think you really never get to. And one of the things I see in these kind of conversations with the infidelity is that somehow the woman always ends up blaming it on the man. It's you didn't give me this because of the emotional attachment. I really see a lady say, you know what, I'm just sexually aggressive. It's not you, honey. I just wanted to experience another guy. If you had that conversation afterwards, it's usually somehow, one shape, form, or fashion, the guy didn't fulfill something. And that. I mean, that's the way I think it. When I see these examples, it's always on the guy. This guy's toiling and doing all his stuff, and maybe he did lack. He had a list of 10 things he do that you want from him, and he only does 9. So you pick the 10th one to say, well, I didn't get the 10th thing, so I want to stand. I had to go get it from somebody else. I don't know. So I mean, that's just me being a man, but I just think it's usually, when I hear these conversations, usually everything always comes back on the man, as opposed to a lady just saying. And it's the same thing for a man. I think men don't really have excuses. They just horny, right? Just go out and cheat on their wives because they want some thrill of victory of another woman. I think women put a little bit more emotions into it, right? And that's another reason why it's hard to come back from that, especially if you thought your wife was a godly woman and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, because she gave the most, I don't know, precious thing. I don't know if it's the most precious thing, but it's something that's just exclusive to the wedding, to the vows and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'm rambling, but it's not a good thing, man. It's just not a good thing. Men don't take infidelity well. We just don't.
Right.
It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And the guys who could forgive, God bless them. God bless them. They're better men than me, because I ain't forgiving nothing.
She got her finger up. Let her talk.
Okay, got you.
And then
okay, I just kind of want to tie it in to Brother Payne's statement of how he views it, that he would not be able to forgive and move on with the infidelity, but tying it in, and this is across the board, but for those who cannot get over, as they may say, can't get over infidelity, if God is your head, if you're following God, and yes, Black Men Unfiltered, I know that is one of the items that you can biblically divorce for. But I still always go back. If I am a Christian, if I'm following God, then I also need to have forgiveness, because I know there are things that I probably have done that needs to be forgiven. So, I get it that some people that's just it, period. But there's other things that I'm willing to forgive, but it's just this one that I just can't forgive.
Okay. Lit, I want you to, but before Lit goes, here's a scripture that is relevant to what our Payne is saying about men and how they can't forgive. Not that we know God is the one who helps us all to forgive, because it's hard to forgive. Let's start there first. But Proverbs 6:34 says, "For jealousy is the rage of a man. Therefore, he would not spare in the day of vengeance." That's the word, Bert. I say that because that's plain about a man and his jealousy as far as a woman stepping out. And we're not saying that it ain't hard for our women, but it seems to be different. I ain't saying it's
more forgiving.
I think our Payne talked about that earlier. Like women seem like they are, and if you just think about relationships that you know, me, I'm thinking about, and that usually what happens. But that there lies the problem when we talk about. I ain't gonna keep going. Let go.
Listen, I'm a little bit different. You know what I mean? I don't usually look at problems the same way everybody else looks at problems. Like I said, I'm single, and everybody has this laundry list of what they're looking for in a mate. The only thing I'm looking for is awareness. You know what I mean? Awareness. Are you paying attention to the things that's going around you? Are you paying attention to me? You know, my greatest litmus test is if I have a grandkid who is having a difficult time trying to express their feelings, would their grandmother be aware enough to sit them on their knee and say, "Babe, I'll listen to you. What's on your mind?" That's what I'm looking for. You know what I mean? I'm looking for the awareness. Because if she's busy trying to figure out exactly what's going on in her house, that means she takes what's going on in her house seriously, you know? And she doesn't have time to dilly and dally in the rest of the world's foolishness. You know, she's busy perfecting her own home. So that's the main reason why I look at that. And she wouldn't have time to be entertaining somebody else's situation. She's too busy trying to perfect her own, you know? The same way at me. Why would I go out and look for somebody who was already ready to find in the first place? And then to find a woman who's aware, someone who can actually know, you know, without knowing something's wrong with me, or I can know when something's wrong with her without her telling me. You know what I mean? To me, that is a certain perfection that we have to work towards. And then not only that, can you teach that to my kids? You know, can I teach my kids that? You know, that type of thing. And what it does, it strengthens the family to the point where everybody who's come in contact with your family knows that that person comes from good stock because they're aware of their community. That right there is the stuff that roots are made from, the stuff that good tree stock is made from, the stuff that makes communities better. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So why would I graft onto my family tree a branch that's weak, that's withered, that's worried about the rest of the world? So a branch that gets thrown to and fro when the wind blows. That's not somebody who I want to graft into my family tree. I'm aware of everybody who comes in contact with me. I'm aware of the type of women who come around me because all I have to do is be quiet and listen. I told you my grandmother used to tell me all the time ago, a long time ago, what's in the bucket will come up. What's up in the well will come up in the bucket. So all you got to do is be quiet. You sit there long enough and you listen, and that's going to tell you exactly what you're dealing with. And I think that's the major difference. Everybody's worrying about whether you're going to cheat or not. No. If I pick the right woman and she's aware, I've done my job.
Good.
Right.
All right. So Black Man Unfiltered.
He's going back and forth, man.
You hear me? He want us to go back.
I want
him and Mandrella going back at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mandrella says it's impossible for anyone to fulfill all of your needs and wants. Stepping out of your marriage is selfish, plain and simple. No one makes you do it. It's a choice at Black Man Unfiltered. It's a choice. Bottom line.
I agree with that. I agree.
It's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
We all got a choice to make.
But I think after it happens, we still have a choice.
Well, everything comes down to okay. I'm sorry. I got.
No, I'm sorry. I was saying, I think we're saying the same thing, or everything comes down to a choice.
Yeah, I agree. You got a choice to stay or go. And when we say forgiveness, I want to make I want to make it clear that I think forgetting is a lot different than forgiveness, right? I mean, I would eventually forgive if my wife cheated on me or a girlfriend. I could eventually forgive you, but that don't mean we could be together anymore because I can't forget it. But I'm not going to hate you for it. Whatever your inclinations are, maybe in the moment I might be mad, but if I'm moving on, I'm not going to carry that baggage with me, but I can't lose the memory, so so those two things go hand in hand. So I'm not going to carry a grudge or hate, or I never hated a person in my life, to tell you the truth, because that's that energy I never carry. But the point really is that I'm not going to be mad forever, especially if we move on, but I'm not going to forget, and I think that's the part of it. It's a memory that's in there, all the memories we have, you sullied the playing field. That's why I didn't do it. I mean, that's the same reason. Every man is supposed to want to have sowers oats with new women. After a while, you got to say, well, enough is enough. So once I got married, enough was enough. And plus, my dating strategy would make me a horrible cheater, because I always cultivated relationships with women I fooled on. You can't do that and be married. I couldn't see myself cultivating a relationship with another woman. That sounds crazy. So if I ain't doing it, you can't do it, goddamn. If I ain't doing it, you can't do it. Shoot.
Yeah, you can hide from your buddies. You can even hide it from me, but you ain't hide it from God. When he go back to run that highlight reel before he let you in the fence, before he let you on the pearly gates, I hope I see you on the other side. I really do.
Yeah, true.
And if not, I understand.
Amen. So can we say, like in a relationship, is there such a thing? Well, going back to what you were saying, Lyd, about awareness. Let's say two individuals are in a relationship or married. Can you get to a point and lose awareness?
Here's the thing, you can, but my whole thing is this: if you're active in your relationship, you should do check-ins. I'm pretty sure our pain will agree with that.
Oh yeah.
Check in with your spouse from time to time, and make sure everything's okay. Our pain can probably speak to that more than I can.
Yeah, because he kind of spoke to it even, with if something was wrong, let me communicate. Communication is the key. It's just, it seems like relationships nowadays, not all, but I'm being in the mental health field, and just a lot of people have a hard time, or having a hard time, like our pain said, you forgetting and forgiveness, they are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
From my own personal experience, I remember all the things, right? Mm-hmm. But the things no longer have me. I have them.
Right.
There was a season or a space where the things, or the thing that somebody did to me, had me, had my emotions all out of whack.
I agree. I hear that.
It's real, because you have to set with a thing. You can't swift run by it. You got to set in it to process it to get to the other side. So we, by no means, I'm totally in agreement with, you don't forget, you can forgive, but it's just like a death, right? Grieving process, you go through a process. But what I'm saying, a lot of people today, marriages, people in relationships, they stuck.
Yeah.
Keywords, just stuck, going through emotions and being okay. Like y'all talked about earlier, you talk about financially with me and a brother's. You gave me some reasons why a brother may stay, though he hasn't forgiven and he's been betrayed. But the question on the floor is, if that's the case, let's hypothetically say, Tom and Mary cheated, Tom find out, Mary told Tom, and Tom decided he's gonna stay. They got 4 kids. Hear me? Because the world is against Tom. Let's be real. He Black. Financially, but what does that do to a sister? What does that do to the relationship? Better yet, fellas and sis, what does that do to children?
I think that's probably the reason why a lot of guys stay, is because of the kids. All right, I honestly believe that. It's like, I messed up, but I got to stay here for my kids. I got to show them what it looks like. And the killing part about it is they're not really showing them what it looks like. They're showing them what they want to see, what they think they should see. Instead of working through the problems, hey, look, me and your mama had some problems. This is how you work through it in case if you go through it. So what most men do is they put on the brave face and they say, I love your mom or whatever. At the same time, they're thinking, man, I can't wait till these kids get out of here. You know what I mean? And go on about my business. You know what I'm saying? But I think a lot of guys do that just for the love of the kids, because they don't want to be away from their kids. That to a lot of men, that's the last hope of passing on whatever they have to pass on. And sometimes they look past the wife and it's like, look, I'll deal with you, but I got to make sure I got to be here for my kids.
I agree with that. I said finance, but kids, and I said you lose your kids too, right? Because usually the lady gets the kids depending on their age, and that'll hurt too. But I mean, that's a horrible place to be in. So that's what I mean. If you want if there was some like mushy way to say the guy stays because he's forgiving and forgetting, he can go past that transgression. It's really because of the things that he'll lose by leaving. And the kids are the number one thing, not the finance. Man, let me put it that way. The kids will be, because you won't get to see them. And half being a parent is the serendipity of being there every day. Being there in your kids' lives, not living in another location and all that kind of battling back and forth, So that's when you catch things, when you're just there, So yeah, a man has to, now the guy's living a life of quiet desperation. I just think he is. I just don't see how he can, look at his wife the same again, or even her looking back at him. I can't say this for women. I just think, we're just different. Yeah. I think a woman could look at the guy and say, okay, you stepped out, but I can still love you and all that kind of stuff, because she says all of the things that he might provide as if he was a good husband, and he did this. Now I think women are just more willing or more able to forget and forgive, whether they forget or not. Their minds don't work like men. The sacrifice of, I think the actual act of having sex with somebody, when a woman looks at a man doing it and a man looks at a woman doing it, I don't think we view it the same. We don't view it the same. Your man wasn't really in submission to that new woman, but a guy's wife, when she's having sex with a guy, she's in full submission to this dude. And it makes a difference. It just makes a difference. I don't think women look at men as guys in submission when they're doing the act. That's not the way it goes. The energy goes from man to woman, if you ask me. So.
All right. That's good. I want to go into another direction with a point number 2 of lead through service. So leading through service, true leadership means serving your family with love and humility. A Christ-like man leads by example, not force. Right. True?
Absolutely, but he's not a dummy either. Let's get that straight. Because I think a lot of people like to take that line and they figure like, I can abuse the privilege. Please believe it is a privilege for a man of God to serve you, because he's serving you unselfishly. So don't take advantage of that. As the rest of the men who speaks, you better give that man praise, because he deserves it, because he didn't have to be there. And I think a lot of times people take advantage of that, thinking, well, you're a man of God, you're supposed to serve this, that, and other. I'm supposed to serve those who God told me to serve. And if you're not being what you're supposed to be, I don't have to serve you. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing what he told me to do. And if you're being ungrateful, then guess what? You're not exhibiting the fruits of the Spirit, so I don't have to serve you. I think that needs to be said, because I think sometimes people take advantage of that.
I agree with that. That's perfect. I mean, that's exactly right. And that goes back to the awareness factor on the woman's side, that that she recognizes all the things that a godly man or a man who's on his square in the family is doing for her. Like my wife is like that. She's like that. I mean, I don't know where she got it from. It's just amazing the way she's like that, because she takes care of me. I'm kind of high maintenance. But going back to awareness, and I don't want to get off your track. So I don't have any problem submitting everything I have to my family, to my wife, my kids. That's what I've done, and it's already set up. And I say this not just when I'm here, when I'm going, the same thing, when I'm going to. But one of the things that with the awareness factor is I'm also aware that women need to be replenished. A lot of men you lose sight of that. I burn credits. I burn credits, so I make sure that I put as much credits back in my wife's emotional piggy bank, all the time. So there's always something in there, because I'm gonna burn credits. Just by being around, so she's aware that I don't take her for granted, and I never feel she takes me for granted. We do that. That's the way it is. That's part of that awareness.
That's a good point. I don't think people realize is that when your pinky bank gets low, you know what I mean? Sometimes when they're telling you, I appreciate you, that fills your piggy bank up for you to keep going on. You know what I'm saying? I don't think people realize that. I'll put in those extra hours if somebody's grateful for what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? I'm putting those extra things that they need me to do if they appreciate what I do. You know what I mean? Even though I know I'm gonna do it anyway, but if somebody tells me thank you for doing that, that's a little extra that doesn't cost you anything, and that motivates me to do more. And I don't think people take that into consideration. Sometimes they just you're supposed to do it. And that's not 93 octane. That's 87 octane. There's gonna be some knocking going on. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing it, but I'm gonna be hemming and hawing. I'll do it anyway. But I know what she'll be like, thank you, baby. I'll be like, ooh, zoom. You know what I'm saying? At 93, and I'm a purr a little bit, you know what I'm saying, when my engine get revved, That's how I look at it. But my thing is this: you gotta know how to talk to people. And I think that's the reason why we have so much friction in relationships, because people don't know how to lubricate their language appropriately. I think that's the issue.
I would agree 100%. Both. I'm gonna go back to, because I think or Payne, you mentioned sacrifice and you stop, but it is a sacrifice. When I think about relationships, when I talk to you brothers and you sharing from male perspective, and you hearing us share from a female perspective, and like you said, we are different. God created us different. I wouldn't have thought that. Took some experiences and learning that it's not the same cookie cutter, because it wasn't. God could have created male and female at the same time. I believe God is intentional. I say that to say, the ultimate relationship, God sacrificed his only son. The ultimate relationship is the relationship that God desires to have with us. The submission, the sacrifice, and all of it. If my relationship with God is in check, meaning I submit it, and I'm aware of who I am. That's all. It's a part. It's a divine order. But when I don't know me, and I have not this way, I'm not talking about being a carnal Christian. That means you know God, but you're not in a relationship with the Lord. You don't know him. Meaning, if I don't know me, it's hard for me to be in a relationship and have self-awareness, awareness of him, because I don't even know me. But I have expectations for him that are unrealistic, because then I can't give him what he needs and he can't give me what I need. It's not reciprocated at all. And I think that's where the friction comes as well. I think we can't get around it. If you sit here on this panel, all of us really, and you had to align how your relationship is with the Lord versus your relationship with your spouse or significant other or the person that's close to being undefeated with lit. If we had to align it, is it parallel? Do you see some similarities between your relationship with the Lord versus your relationship with your spouse or your significant other?
Mhm.
I know for me personally, through the years, I saw it. No wonder submission is very hard when you ain't submitting to the one that created you. I'm the creation and I'm not submitted to the creator, but I'm expected to submit. And I'm talking about in a respectful way, not this word dominant, because relationships should be beautiful. And we hear from our pain just something as simple as, when Sister Cheryl does something, he go to her, or vice versa. I'm talking about that submission. That's simple. There's some more hard places, but we allowed the world to take words, submission, and now we think it's meaning, oh, you got to do what I say. And I think somebody said it earlier. I can't do what you say if you're not doing what he say. We ain't none of us doing with nobody. It ain't none of us obedient in the relationship I'm talking about.
But you know what I always ask them? What's the prerequisite for you doing what you're supposed to do before I do mine?
Say it again. Ask that again, please.
It's my whole thing is, where in the Bible does it say that you have to do after me? It doesn't.
No, it don't.
It does not. So to me, it seems like you're being disobedient because you want to be, because you're looking for a reason not to do it instead of looking for a reason to do it.
Right.
To me, that seems like you're using a scapegoat. I'll do it when you do it. I'll be in my feminine when you get in your masculine, that type of thing. I don't deal with merchants of chaos. I don't trade, with people like that. I don't, because, you're supposed to already have your own relationship. And that comes with that awareness within me. If I hear that, I know you're not the right person for me, because you're looking not to do anyway instead of looking to do. That comes back with awareness. So I know to already eliminate you. No harm, no foul. Go ahead and live your life. And I wish you the best Godspeed. But you won't be doing that over here. I don't grieve the Holy Spirit over here. I don't play games like that.
I guess that's why I brought up the word lead through service. So we need to always be focused on serving one another, not one-sided, like you're saying, being aware that we are serving one another when you're in a marriage, when you're in a relationship. Always your mind is focused on serving each other. It's not, well, you tit for tat. You didn't do it, so I didn't do it. So it should always, I feel, be on your mind to serve as if you're serving unto the Lord. So I want to give, I want to serve you, because that's what God wants me to do, is to serve you as my brother, as my sister, but as my spouse, I am going to serve you, whether you do it or not, because I know who's over me, who's my Father, and that's, I'm going to serve regardless. Serve.
Can I let you in a little secret? I don't serve people. I serve God first. And if he tells me that I need to take care of them, then I'm going to take care of them. Because sometimes people don't always deserve my mercy, but God deserves it. So I'm going to serve him first. You know what I'm saying? And he tells me what to do after that. And I let him and whoever it is work that out between them. As long as I'm obedient, I'm going to do what I have to do. Now, it may look like I'm serving you, but I assure you it is not. I assure you it is not.
It must be that serving as unto the Lord.
Correct. Now, I'm obedient to him.
Listen, Trey has a lot to say. I'm just gonna go to the end because he got about 20 things. Hey, Trey. Women give their job ultimate submission day in and day out. But now as your man, you question if I'm serving God correctly first. Shaking my head.
Okay, Lit.
See, told you.
I think it goes for this, though, honestly, in a relationship. But what you're describing and what he's describing, that's what when you describe, who goes first, whatever, it starts getting into this tit for tat.
Right.
And sometimes that comes because it didn't start that way, but comes somewhere down the line, something happened, and something wasn't addressed. Then him, I said him, and I say him who's in a, depending on what it is, him who's in authority has the authority or the responsibility to address it, address it. If you don't address it, you have addressed it. And then here we go down here, unaddressed things tend to bring us to this place of, you didn't do it, I ain't gonna do it. You ain't submitting, I ain't either. How you gonna ask me? It's a whole, but it didn't start that way. Just like you leave your house and traffic, there's none. But you get up down 35, unbeknownst to you, there's traffic. Maybe had you looked at the news or app or whatever, you will be what? Aware. It's the same thing happening in relationships. So I don't think that we can, I don't think it starts with tit for tat. I don't think it starts with we looking at each other like trying to figure out if you did it first. It starts with service. But the question is, what's the motive and how it started? Going back to what's the motive of how you got in the relationship. But for you, Lyd, as you keep sharing, that's the reason why having the boundaries, so you won't get in those kind of conundrums, if you will.
Right. Absolutely. So another thing too, if I submit to God first, that means I've already had to prepare my heart to answer to him. And if I'm being the example, that means that they have to soften their heart for God to reach them. And I already know he's gonna do what he have to do. Mm-hmm. So I don't have to try to convince anybody of anything that they don't want to do. I told you that a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I shouldn't have to convince you or trick you of anything that you don't want to do. Now, if you just decide you don't want to do what God tell you to do, that's on you and God. That ain't on me. Because I already talked to him. He already told me what to do.
Yeah. And that's being in a relationship with the Lord. That's when a man being in a relationship with God first and foremost, you know, having the authority. If you just said he told you what to do, he told Adam what to do too in the beginning. And yeah, we won't go there. That's a whole nother podcast. But because then a man has to stand up in that part. We talking about laying down. Laying down is just you know, going back to what we opened up with being vulnerable in that space that you can be. Preferably you in a relationship, you want to be in a relationship where you can be, or in a relationship where you I can come to you and say, you know, I feel blase, and he can come to me and say, you know, I didn't like the way you whatever, and we have a conversation. And in a conversation, you got to be an active listener. You know, each party has to actively listen, and then be intentional thereafter. You heard what I said, because I see it. I see you do something different. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother thing too. But I don't think it's fair. Like, you know, Trey is, men should only be vulnerable with God. What if we say that? What if women can only be vulnerable with God? And then here's another one, Trey. Who is your God? Because a lot of folks they are vulnerable with God, but their God is a whole lot of things. Another man is a God. Another woman can be a God, an idol. So that's what I say to that. You know, because I think it's not fair to say only men should do this and only women should do this. But when we use the word service, we use the word submission, we use the word self-awareness, communication, all of those things, both genders need to do. But I come to this conclusion that the way we respond differently. We respond differently to the different situations. So.
Right. I was going to say, to each its own. You never know what you're going to do until it happens. You just don't know.
You have good intentions, but until that thing happens to you,
right,
you move a little different. Well, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, the hour has come. And I appreciate you all for joining us on the panel. Those of you who have come in, always, Trey, thank you for always pushing the envelope. I can and BMU and the sisters who were on as well. We appreciate each and every one of you. These are good conversations, and don't let them just stop here. Have those conversations with your boys, with the girls in your family, and just see where those you love, those who you in community with, what they think about the matter. But the ultimate thing is, yes, do it God's way. That's the only way, because He is the way, the truth, and the life. And the reality is, you can take that word and be able to apply it to your life. That's how you get abundant living. And you are created by God, who's the creator. You can create your own scenario. What you want in your relationship, create it. But you have to communicate and be an active listener. And dear brothers, yes, lay down, because that's the only way you're gonna stand up. Lay down doesn't mean that that you're a weak man. But here's another thing for you: it's in your weakness that God's strength is made perfect, in your weakness. And to Trey's point, well, then go to God, because God is the only one that can empower you to continue to be the fathers, the husbands, the community workers, all that sisters need for you to be. And though I know we got a part too, but we should get away from, when we're talking about one, let's find out what the positives are there. Then we talk about the other. And then maybe there's a panel we talk about the togetherness, but let's don't give the enemy any room to lean to one side by throwing the other side under the bus. We need one another, point blank and period. And we don't all get it right. We won't always get it right. But let me encourage you, there is somebody for you if you want them. Now, if you don't want them, that's fine. But if you want somebody, it's somebody for you. I believe that. This is why Lyd is staying where he is, but it's somebody. He just waiting on the right one. And yeah, we thank you for those who are married, God ordained marriage. I'm still for it. I believe in it. But it still takes two.
Amen.
Yes, yes.
Indeed.
All right. You have heard from the plug. We'll see you the next Sunday, which is, what Sunday is? I done forgot my own. Look, all the things. What Sunday before? We'll see you second and fourth Sunday here live. Second and fourth Sunday, first and third. We're doing replays. We appreciate you. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and send a donation if something that you heard add value to your life. We appreciate you. We love you. We're out. Thank you, sis.
Peace.
All right. Bye.